All right, you ready for this?
Ready.
Hey everyone, this is Tom Salemi of DeviceTalks. Welcome back to the DeviceTalks Weekly Podcast. We're going to talk about early stage MedTech today. I had the chance to speak with Marwan Berrada. He is the founder and managing partner of T45 Labs, which is a very cool MedTech incubator in Santa Clara, California, just a couple blocks from where we had the DeviceTalks West conference. We'll talk about Marwan's career, a lot of time in startups, some time at very interesting interesting and prestigious clinical setting. We'll leave it for that. And then we'll talk about how he came to co-found and start T45 Labs. And we'll review some of the companies that they've produced. It's a great effort to produce more early stage MedTechs. We love that stuff. So I know you'll enjoy that conversation. Before that, Chris Newmarker and I will hit upon the Newmarker's Newsmakers. So enjoy all of the news that MassDevice has to bring. And finally, of course, don't forget to register for DeviceTalks Boston, which is open. Registration is open, and it is happening on April 30th and May 1st. We'll talk about a couple of speakers in the podcast. And finally, don't forget to register for our upcoming DeviceTalks Tuesdays. It's brought to you by the Voluntary Improvement Program at ISACA, and it's called Accelerate Success, Boost Efficiencies, Quality, and Innovation in Medical Device Manufacturing. It happens at 4 p.m. on Tuesday. It's 4 p.m. Eastern, but of course, you can watch it live at that time or you can watch it on demand. But you do need to register, and it's free, absolutely free. You can ask questions whenever you watch. So it's a great way to get the insights when you need them or be part of our live discussion. And I'll be there on the chat, and we'll have some fun. So go to DeviceTalks.com to register for the DeviceTalks Tuesdays. And of course, while you're there, you can listen to other great podcasts, and you can register for DeviceTalks Boston. All right, let us get this podcast started. Chris Newmarker, how are you, sir?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. As we're recording this at 9:33 a.m. Eastern, 8:33 a.m. Central, where Chris is at. And
I'm just learning that this time of year, right, first thing in the morning, like the sunlight is just like...
You know, I was on a call with you and someone else in Minneapolis yesterday, and you were just complaining about the clouds. Now you're complaining about the sun. Are you just like us Boston folks, and you just complain about everything too?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that.
I thought you were happy, nice people.
We are.
Yeah.
We complain in a very nice way.
Oh, darn, son.
Oh, gosh, darn it. Sure.
Well, that's good.
I'm sure you hear that all the time around Boston. Gosh darn it. I'm sure that's something a Bostonian
all the time.
will say. Yep. Gee whiz.
Someone up in traffic. Like, golly willikers, where's your head at?
Golly, well, you.
Anyway, so I'm glad the sun is out in Minneapolis. We're having a lovely kind of post-fall day here in New England. Well, I mean, it's fall, obviously, but all the leaves have that kind of like, we're done. Just let us fall to the ground. Look on them. Yeah, they're not very vibrant these days.
There's just a few trees around here hanging on. Like I got a neighbor who's got a giant maple. It's still just hanging. It's got those yellow leaves on. It's like I'm not dropping them yet. It's like, all right. Like
I got one of those in my backyard. I'm just waiting. I'll be out there with the leaf blower, getting them one at a time as they come down. Yeah. So, anyway, Chris Newmarker, enough about the weather report. We did our election thing last year. We'll have a little bit of that in the Newmarker's Newsmakers, but we don't need to bore people with that. Let's see. Any news on the DeviceTalks front? No, we're still moving forward. And I mentioned this at the top. DeviceTalks Boston, April 30th, May 1st. We'll have Duke Rolene of Ajax as one of our keynotes.
That'll be awesome.
And And also I announced this week we'll have Dr. Scott Sigmund, who's an orthopedic surgeon in the area, who's heavy into the future of the industry. He's become really known for his stance against opioids and really trying to manage
Great.
pain and without opioids. So
Huge
I posted
issue.
a TED Talk he did earlier this week. But we're going to have him, and we'll have a few other people doing similar presentations on different areas. But we'll have him doing a presentation on the future of orthopedics. So
Fantastic.
Trying to bring some new ideas to Device Talks. And I have another keynote panel that I think we'll be able to announce next week.
And,
So,
we've already
excited about
been,
that.
like doing some networking meetings with groups around Minneapolis because we got DeviceTalks
Yep.
Minnesota coming back in June. So
Exactly. Yeah, there's not a lot of time between April 30th and June 11th. It sounds like it when you first say it, but as you're planning, you're like, oh, we're really doing two events at once. So yes,
Yeah.
we've got dual tracks going on, and I've actually got two key speakers already for Device Talks West. So we're humming and rolling here at Device
what
Talks.
if we did the events at the same time? Like, do they still have a Concord around? Like, like you could do a Live Aid thing? I'm
that
really
would be-
dating
that-
myself.
I'm not sure if the Concord would. I think we would need Santa's sleigh to get them all done at the same time.
Because it would be great. It'd be like you do a morning keynote in Boston, and then you like show up in Minneapolis in the afternoon, like, hey, I'm here. It would be like exciting. No.
Yeah, we'll put that one in the old suggestion box there, Chris Newmarker. That sounds like a real winning idea right there.
Like
All right.
holding two events in the two of the greatest MedTech hubs in the United States at the same time.
Exactly.
Like,
All right.
right.
Speaking of MedTech, Chris Newmarker, I
Yeah,
think people
well-
want to hear the news of the week.
Tom's like, I'm filing. No. you just yesed me away, Tom. You yesed me away.
I don't know who's listening to this, but what if I get a call from our CEO saying, I like that Newmarker kid. He's got some great ideas. Then I'm in big trouble.
Yeah, that's true. I'm like, do they have supersonic private jets? Could we?
What is number 5 on the Newmarker's Newsmakers, Chris Newmarker?
Okay, number 5, we've got artificial intelligence. That's been kind of a trending topic lately. It's getting some attention,
I
but
heard about it.
there's a collaboration between GE Healthcare and Deep Health to advance the adoption of AI in energy in imaging. Sorry, they want to develop smart technology solutions.
Okay. And this is written by Sean Hooley.
Sean Hooley, yeah.
And GE Healthcare says the collaboration uses its imaging expertise and scale, and that Deep Health will offer AI-powered health informatics. So yeah, so it's another. We're seeing. We've talked about this before, but we're seeing I think more collaborations between MedTech and other MedTechs, but also MedTechs and AI and tech companies. So
Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense because, medical device companies traditionally, they were more like mechanical, electrical, engineering expertise. Why build up this whole like software expertise in-house when there are companies that know how to do it, as long as you make sure that, they're doing it, in a safe and efficacious way. But yeah, like the idea of AI and imaging, we already had GI Genius, with Medtronic, Cosmo Pharmaceuticals, this, idea that an AI can, help kind of like point out to somebody, that there's something that could be an issue on an imaging scan, or suggest things that could move things along faster. That sounds very valuable. Could be really good for radiologists.
All right, let's move on to number 4.
We got a fun spokesperson announcement. We've got
Yeah,
that's right. We got Zimmer Biomet. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the chief movement officer of Zimmer Biomet. So everybody knows who that guy is. He's going to be helping to get the word out about people increasing mobility, which is an important part of Zimmer Biomet's business.
Yep, and in this statement, Arnold Schwarzenegger said he wants every single person in the world to discover the joy of fitness and movement. And he says, I agree with the famous quote, "If you rest, you rust." And my goal with the Zimmer Biomet is to continue to push people to see that movement creates joy and extends the quality of our lives. Well, we need some joy, Chris Newmarker. We could use some joy. And it's a good hire. Obviously, it's not going to be knee deep in operations or design, but I think anything that brings some attention to the medtech industry. You and I have talked frequently about how we don't have a lot of sizzle. We got a lot of steak, but there's not a lot of sizzle.
Yeah.
We don't have the science ooh wow of pharma, or the hey, everybody gets to be a millionaire by the time they're 25 of tech.
Right.
So I'm all for having Arnold Schwarzenegger as a member of the MedTech team. So
I mean, MedTech's just putting like devices inside people's bodies that improve their lives.
What's that got to do with anything?
Snooze, right?
Who cares about extending the quality of life and saving lives and keeping people alive?
I mean, you hear about corporate, sometimes you hear about corporate spokesperson, announcements, and you're like, yeah, whatever. This is actually, Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's cool.
Absolutely. And of course, you and I are Gen Xers, so we love Arnold. So happy to have him on Team MedTech. So good move by Zimmer Biomet. And believe you me, if I could get him as a keynote at a DeviceTalks meeting,
oh my gosh,
100% would do that. Be fantastic. Be a great conversation because we've all seen, I think, the Netflix special, and he's just a fascinating dude and super inspirational. So
very cool.
Cool. All right, what is number 3 in the Newsmakers, Chris?
Number 3 on the list, we got robotic surgery news. We got Momentis Surgical announcing that the FDA cleared their second generation Innovo surgical robot. So they continue to move forward with this robotic system.
And it says the second generation Innovo platform brings a suite of upgrades to enhance surgeon experience. That includes the first FDA cleared robotic system capable of operating both retroflexion and anteflexion.
And this system has miniature humanoid shaped robotic arms, and the kind of the idea here is it provides kind of like a human level of dexterity, 360 degrees of articulation. So I mean, this is definitely seems to be one of those types of systems that could be more flexible, I mean, they definitely seem to be making an ambulatory surgery center play, don't you think, Tom?
I would think so, yeah. It seems to be that scale of a robot for sure.
Yeah, but that's, that's just such an interesting how, healthcare is just shifting so much into those settings. And even though we are wow, intuitive, Da Vinci 5, they got such a lock on hospitals. There's just all this innovation in the robotic surgery space, around these kind of newer healthcare settings. So
absolutely. Care will be moving out of the hospitals. I mean, I was at MassMedic at a regulatory roundup meeting earlier this week, and incoming CDRH leader, Dr. Michelle Tarver, gave a remote talk. And one of her big pushes is healthcare at home and helping patients get care outside of the hospital. So it's going to be a big part of our world going forward, and that includes, of course, ambulatory surgery centers. Surgery centers aren't homes, but they're certainly they're going to be a big part of where we go going forward, especially when you start talking about telesurgery capabilities, which seem to be advancing every single week. You hear new stories. So,
I mean, sure, I would be amazed if we had in-home open heart surgeries at some point. I mean, there's certain things you need to be in a hospital, and they're going to need to keep you there for a while, to keep an eye on you here. But yeah, there's a lot of things that could be done in the home.
Absolutely. All right, Chris Newmarker, what is number 2?
And talking about FDA, outgoing Commissioner Robert Califf, he gave a talk early this week at the Friends of Cancer Research annual meeting, and this was streamed on video. So there's video online of Califf's talk, but he weighed in kind of on the what's going on with the incoming Trump administration. I mean, he's he didn't say he's a Biden appointee. He didn't say he's leaving. But he kind of made some suggestions. He's definitely going to be exiting. It seemed but didn't make an official announcement. But he kind of. Jim Hammerand has a really nice summary of kind of some of the things he was saying about where he sees going. Really kind of making a pitch to the industry. That to kind of stand by the regulators, to make, because our industry it seems like it's built a really good partnership with FDA, and they're actually being regulated is really support a lot of innovation in the industry. So if things get a little too different over there, it might not be good for our industry.
Yeah, well, Jim wrote that Dr. Califf was asked whether FDA employees are eyeing the exits, and Califf said, quote, "People are waiting to see." So I wonder what the feeling will be about the news that came after these comments were made, which is that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Might be, or is the nominee for the head of HHS. I think that one caught me by surprise. I know it caught me by surprise. I think it caught a lot of people by surprise. I didn't think that was the place that he would end up. I thought it would be more of a ceremonial position or advisory position. Yes. But
HHS, he's and Kennedy's said he'd like to get rid of whole sections of FDA. So it seems like he's more focused on the nutritional side of things, and even Califf in his talk earlier this week was kind of pointing out that some of those things that are brought up are things that the law says they've got to do. So it's not like it's not like, oh, FDA, you did this. It's like, well, there's things in the actual law has to say that they have to do it. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
We'll see. I talked to a few people earlier in the week about this is again prior to the news, Thursday's news about RFK Jr. Investors, VCs were, we really make long-term bets, so we're not necessarily too concerned. And talking with someone who's at an industry group, their feeling was like, look, MedTech makes things cheaper, it makes care better. So there's really not a lot of targets for efforts like these. So maybe our sector will be spared, but I don't know. Just.
Project 2025. I mean, there's a section in it that that talks about which, Trump disavowed it, but there's people. A lot of the people who wrote that are going to be part of this administration, but it kind of had a part that kind of was complaining, saying that there were problems with industries paying FDA for regulation, which is basically describes what MedTech does, with our fee-based structure. But it also, a lot of the language around it suggested it was a lot more talking about the pharmaceutical industry. That's kind of where the focus was, this kind of idea of pharma being too, cozy with FDA, I guess. So I mean, yeah, well, it's there's separations of power in our country too. Nominees have to be confirmed. You can't just completely change departments without approval from Congress. So it'll be interesting times. And Califf, his talk wasn't totally negative earlier this week. I mean, he was also saying kind of times of great change are also opportunities. So I mean, this could be a time when there's things that a lot of people have been like, gosh, it'd be nice if we reformed FDA so that it did this. That this could be, if they're really going to be opening up the the hood here and doing some work on FDA. I mean, this might be the time to something positive could happen.
We'll see. I mean, I honestly haven't gone line by line through Project 2025. I've talked to people who have, and I will go through them. I've heard there's some things that may change for hospital payments. So again, to your earlier point, this has been disavowed as the platform for the Trump administration, but I'm not sure if that's entirely the case. I think it will certainly be used as a guidepost or guideline. So we'll see. I guess we'll see what we see.
Yeah,
we'll see what we see. It's been an interesting week with all the appointments that have come forth so far. So promises to be something worth following in the weeks to come. But let's end this with.
Oh yeah, we'll be staying on top of the news at MassDevice.
Oh, yeah.
So keep an eye. We'll keep you informed.
Let's end this with a positive, true MedTech story. Chris Newmarker, what's number one?
Yeah, positive news. We've been waiting for this for a while, but Johnson & Johnson won a FDA IDE to get going on with the Ottava surgical robot. So this is like J&J's play to get in and compete with Intuitive in the soft tissue robotic surgery space. So it's moving forward.
Absolutely, no, it's exciting news. People have been anxious to see J&J and Medtronic get into this game. Some have put forth that it's too late for them to get into the game. But I trust that these companies wouldn't spend the time they're spending on something that's not going to have the legs to at least to make an effort. And there's obviously openings, as we talked about, with ASCs and other approaches where they could potentially find openings. So in any case, we don't have to look too far down the road. So let's just focus on today, which is congratulations to J&J for the IDA for the Ottava surgical robot. It's going to be great to see what comes from it.
Yeah, exciting to see what's next.
Absolutely. All right, Chris Newmarker. Interesting times.
Interesting times.
That's what we're supposed to wish for, right?
What's that old saying? It can be.
You live in interesting times. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It could be. It's a curse or an opportunity, but at least it's interesting times. Right?
All right, Chris Newmarker. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Tom. Take care, buddy.
Well, Marwan Berrada, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
My pleasure. I love learning about incubators, and I understand you're also a neighbor of ours of DeviceTalks West. You're in the Santa Clara Convention Center neighborhood, right?
That is correct. Where the magic happens, or at least we believe so. At least with the 49ers.
That's right. I know. We went to see, I was out there for another meeting in September, and I was like, well, let's go down to the convention center, check out the space, and forgot it was Monday Night Football, and the Niners were playing, and the place was packed. So I don't know how you manage on those Mondays when they play, because the area was pretty crazy. But that's not why we're here. Let's talk about your career in MedTech and where you are today. Marwan, how'd you find your way into medical devices?
Yeah, so originally I'm from Morocco, so I came to the U.S. when I was 18. Actually, I found my way by watching one of my family members get a hydrocephalus shunt implanted by a neurosurgeon from Harvard. And he was also Moroccan. They came to study in the U.S. and came back to Morocco for his medical practice. So I was so enamored by the process, how somebody can go from being almost dead to having a full life. And I wanted to do that. So asked questions, landed in Boston to learn English. Believe it or not, you might sense French accent from my background, but did that for about 6 months, then attended University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, so which is a huge hub of medical devices. And then loved it. Loved the in innovation part of it, the R&D part of it up to a certain point, and thought it was important to contribute back. So joined the force.
That's great. I see you've got your mechanical engineering bachelor's and master's from University of Minnesota. My son is getting his bachelor's in mechanical engineering right now, sophomore year. He's getting crushed. Any advice for the medical engineering students out there who are hard at work?
Yeah, absolutely. Work harder.
That's what I tell them. Jeez.
No, I think for the students out there, mentoring is key. There are a lot of opportunities in the world as a mechanical engineer. Can go many different directions. Be interested, curious, find your own way. So I think that's good. Mechanical engineering is a great degree.
Absolutely. No, he's excited. So looking at your LinkedIn background, looks like you, at least the first MedTech job I see listed is senior R&D engineer at EV3. Was that your first stint in MedTech?
Yeah, so I started a little bit with Boston Scientific through the University of Minnesota. So they had a great program, a new product development. I think we were maybe first or second cohort of that program at the master's level. Fantastic. Worked with great people at Boston Scientific. Then I moved to EV3. R&D, just developing filters, embolic protection filters. And then from there, this is actually before, EV3, I was employee number 8 at EV3. So really, really at the inception of the entire,
Wow.
Yeah, fantastic story there, fantastic outcome for EV3. So we're excited about what happened there.
What was it? So your employee 8, it's a small operation. What was you're doing? We'll get into what you're doing now. You're building startups now, but what do you like about a startup? What works for you?
I like a little bit that chaotic aspect of startups that
Yep.
you bring into how it is, how you can order it. I think it's very key to, I like that. I don't like large organizations, not because they're not great. They're great to work in, but I think it doesn't fit me. Like in the sense that I need to think out of the box, try new things, and I don't want to get into too many, well, why are you doing it? This is not what we ask you to do. I think that's innovation. Innovation is when you're really a little bit chaotic in your head and then try new things. Otherwise, how can you bring new technology or new activities if you don't fail first and then learn from your failures?
No, that's great. That's a great perspective. I'm a big fan of uncertainty. I find it very exciting and trying to find the way. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I guess that's something similar. So you went from EV3 to CryoCath. So did you just remain mostly in it looks like early stage companies? I'm scanning through. We'll talk about your time at Cleveland Clinic in a moment. That's clearly not an early stage company, but you were working with early stage companies. But
yeah, no.
How do you build a career in startups? And maybe you could convey that through your experiences.
Yeah, for that one, it was really a fortunate moment. One of my master's degree was in cryobiology.
Wow.
So yeah, wanting to preserve organs and learn how to deliver cold so you can actually kill organs. So CryoCath was an interesting path. I had to move from the US to Canada for immigration purposes. Unfortunately, it was around 9/11's time.
Okay.
Then Canada was a welcoming home for me at that time, and CryoCat as well. Story there, just packed everything and then moved to CryoCat and knocked at their door, said, "Hey, I would like to have a job," and they offered me a job. So another funny story there. So how you build a career? Maybe I'm not the most, I would say, a person that has an organized agenda. I just say. I think CryoCat was more of an opportunistic agenda, which we did very, very well. Obviously, cryoablation and electrophysiology has taken off. Now with PFA, it's a different story. But for a while, CryoCat was really a darling for a lot of people.
You and I just became best friends, Marwan. I'm not a very organized person either with a grand plan. I hear you. So let's talk about the stint you had at senior director. You were senior director of product development at the Cleveland Clinic's Global Cardiovascular Innovation Center. Is that a job that's actually in Cleveland, or were you sort of a regional representative someplace?
No. It's definitely a job within the Cleveland Clinic.
Okay.
The Cleveland Clinic at that time had a bond from or economic development from the state of Ohio. So they partnered up in trying to bring talent to the Cleveland area. And the hiring entity is obviously the Cleveland Clinic. And my job was to really work for the Heart and Vascular Institute on all the physicians, so cryothoracic surgery, vascular surgery, robotic surgery, electrophysiology, heart failure, go to cath labs, go to ORs, and help physicians at the Cleveland Clinic with their innovation or innovate with them. I always tell people, look, you go to Harvard for your business school, and I went to Cleveland Clinic for my clinical school. It's a fantastic opportunity. I learned a lot. It shaped me. I have to say that. So the patient first mantra becomes really what I'm doing today at T45. So I've seen people suffering. I've seen people that they've been saved by awesome doctors from the Cleveland Clinic. So I owe that institution quite a bit of inspiration, I have to say. So
we hear that expression or that mantra a lot, patient first, from folks in MedTech. What is it? This is a question that I didn't prepare you for, so it might be deeper than you expected to go. But what does that mean to you? I mean, because medical device development is all about the patient, but how do you really take that to a level to the Cleveland Clinic takes it? Like, how do they differentiate themselves from others, if that's a question that can even be answered?
Yeah, so at the Cleveland Clinic, there are two things. One is obviously the skill set of surgery, and then do the best and hire the best. So that's patient first. Obviously, the financial side, so do what is necessary for the patient. And then the third thing that I think we don't talk about, and it's huge at the Cleveland Clinic, is empathy. So how do you deliver empathy to patients and then be part of that cycle to make these patients comfortable within really daunting settings? So not that I can take empathy within an incubator, but we try to bring it through thinking, are the devices today using the OR efficient for patients and the institutions? Do they make sense? And you can see from our first picks on the companies that we have, we try to change a little bit. They're not huge innovation leaps, but small enough that they can make huge difference within the OR and to patients as well.
Interesting. And you say you got your grad degree of sorts at the Cleveland Clinic. Next you went off to Shifa Med, where I'm guessing that's definitely a post grad experience there. What did you learn? What did you learn there? It's a really fascinating organization.
Absolutely. A shout out to Amr, my mentor and a great guy. Actually, I told him this, so I used to have his picture with his bio, on my desk.
Oh, really?
Reading it almost every day. Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So the inspiration there is fantastic. Shifa Med, I was executive in residence. So looking at different technologies, looking at how we can, which companies to build and why. It was a great moment there. It has a lot of successes, came in at the right time, and then hopefully I contributed to that organization for about a year and a half. That the inspiration came to me. It's like, well, maybe it's time for me to build something that is similar. And Amr and I talked about it, and then I was able to leave in good terms. Where we're still friends now as well. So. It's fantastic. So if a shout out to anybody out there talking about mechanical engineers and engineers. So please put your CVs not only at Shifa Med, but don't forget T45. But we'll give first pick up the letter to Shifa Med. Great organization.
If you're looking for an intern this summer, I'll let my son know.
All right.
He wants to do aerospace, but I keep trying to get him into MedTech. So you went to. You were chief business officer at Next Step, and I want to get into T45 in a moment, but that seems inconsistent with some of the roles you've had in the past. Was that sort of an experience bending or expanding sort of position?
Yeah, so actually one thing that we skipped is along the way when I was in Montreal is I did my MBA in finance and strategy. So wanted to really move into the business side of things. Okay. Next Step Medical is a device that is combining a PTA with an angiographic catheter. It's a very cool and nice and neat device. So helping a friend there getting off the ground on the commercialization. So I'm part of the board and I'm part of the advisory. The product is 510Ks and they're looking into cracking commercialization in the US.
Does learning that part of the business, being the chief business officer, or at least understanding those responsibilities, does that inform your mechanical engineering side of your brain and help you design better?
Absolutely. I think as mechanical engineers and product development, we can design. If we have a problem, we will solve it. Right? Mm-hmm. Do we solve a problem that is economically efficient, both on the cost and then on the revenue side of it? That's a different question. So, and then what do you put into your product that would make that gross profit margin the highest possible? And how do you design for manufacturability? So there are a whole bunch of stuff in there that are added. And I think the appreciation of the business side, I think, makes you a better product development person, for sure.
Interesting. So you started T45, looks like November 2022, and I feel like I was reading your LinkedIn profile. It's probably not good theater for our listeners, but in between, you're a co-founder of, is it Vahadicor?
Vahadicor. So the story there, T45, yes, it started in 2022, but the reality, T45 was in my head for a long time. So that's just when we start putting things together. So T45 is an incubator that has advanced nanotherapies, Vahari Core, and Nuevo Sono, in addition to another company, fourth one called Recava, which is not listed. I think it's for the enjoyment of external public reading my LinkedIn profile. I still need to put things more transparent that way, but the companies are under the T45 umbrella per se. So
okay, well, let's talk about T45. So, how does one incubate an incubator? I mean, what's the building blocks? Is it just the notion that you want to start companies and you just put up a shingle saying as much, or is it finding a partner or partners who can help make it happen? How did you start putting T45 together?
Yeah, so everyone, I think, has a different story. I think the inception of incubators in one's head is, at least in my head, is the economies of scale. In business school, they teach you, or at least what I learned from it, is two things: fixed cost versus variable cost. So you want to minimize your fixed costs and maximize your variable costs. So when you do an incubator, the overhead is fixed cost. So you need to minimize that and see how you can divide it among different companies. I think one company funded, and this is again my opinion, one company funded with one, having to have accounting, having to have some, regulatory and all of that, and then, not being able to divide or hire the right person because it's just a small role doesn't make it compelling. So an incubator allows you to hire the right people full time and then divide them among different companies and then take care of them, also from a stock option perspective. So that's one. Two, we always talk to the same people, right? Whether it's physicians or KOLs or strategics or others. So I think economies of scale allows us to go and then present multiple opportunities to these people and have them on multiple opportunities. I think people like that. They really are engaged. We like also now we have physicians coming to us and asking us for help in developing products for them and incubating them. Maybe we'll get to it later, but the ecosystem for innovation in MedTech has changed significantly over the past years, and money is scarce. So everybody's trying to find a new way, and maybe T45 is another model here that can be successable too.
Well, let's talk about that now. How do you think that it has changed? I agree it has changed. I think there used to be I used to have a whole list of early stage VCs that I could call to see what they were working on. I don't have that list anymore, and part of it is I'm doing other stuff. The other thing is I don't know if it would be as long a list as it used to be. How is the early stage environment landscape for MedTech changed?
Yeah, I think innovation first from physicians and others is healthy. What's not healthy is the funding, as we all know. And how do you bridge that? So I think it's hard to find for first-time inventors, not seasoned, but you have a good idea. It's hard to find money. I think once you find money, evaluations are terrible. So dilution is high.
I was expecting good news. Once you find money, valuations are terrible.
Well, that is true too. So this actually will come to the reason why we try to build T45 Fund 1 and then subsequent funds as well. But back to the question that you asked, it is very the ecosystem is hard. The ideas are here, but people trusting a management team to execute, it's hard to find. Mm-hmm. And then everybody walked out from the early stage. Now, what do we do? How will the pipeline of good project be healthy 5 years from now? So we hope that we can, have good projects that we can deliver five years from now based on our model here.
Interesting. So first simple question, or maybe it's simple. T45. What is the name? Where did the name come from?
Very, very funny story. So this is a wink to the Cleveland Clinic. So when I was there, and then physicians are very busy people. Obviously, they work very hard, very early, and then it's hard to get them focused when they are in their environments. Everybody pinging them. If you've been to the Cleveland Clinic, there is a nice hotel called the Intercontinental Hotel. And then in that hotel, there's a nice restaurant called the Table 45. So when the invitation would be sent to these physicians, we say, hey, let's meet at T45 for drinks and discussions about your innovation. And often you strike deals at that nice venue. So when I wanted to do incubator at the beginning, I just called it T45 Labs as a placeholder, thinking that one day we'll have enough money to hire a great marketing team and and then do this brainstorming and soul searching. And then the name stuck. The story was great, and I think this is really speaks towards the innovation at heart that I have, and the clinic, and the impact from the Cleveland Clinic on my career.
No, it's a nice piece of a nice homage to the Cleveland Clinic, and if it inspires you every day to capture the energy that was at Table 45, then I think it certainly works. So how is T45? You talked a bit about it, but you mentioned a fund, and I think you have to give more than. How is it structured? Do you have a fund to invest in these companies yourselves, or are you working with angels or others who are investing in what you do? How does the financial side work?
Yeah, exactly. So we decided to do with we recognize very early that it's hard to find money, and the process is highly inefficient. So you find a lot of no's, and it was very difficult as a process. And if you have multiple companies, you cannot spend your time just chasing money in that way. So I partnered up with a friend of mine. I have two partners, Sanj Kalra and Michael Mendel. And Sanj one of my partners allowed us to access family offices. So under T45 Fund 1, we have about 30 family offices in there. They put a small amount because we were just getting started. But the hope, and then we raised about 27 million. But the hope is after we were successful, that we can go back to these family offices and say, look, we've proven to you that, we're doing the right thing with your funding, which we appreciate. And let's expand the pie. Mm-hmm. So the way how we do it is we tell these physicians, these family offices and these LPs in which companies they're investing. We say, look, we have advanced therapies, Vahadicor and Wivosona and Recava. They're moving at different direction, at different paces in here. So obviously, some of them are clinical and some are not. So, but here's how we're going to deploy your money throughout time into these companies. So we give them a schedule, and we try to adhere to that schedule. So far we called about 65% of that fund, which is great, and directly apply to these companies. We have been very successful. We're already looking at a second fund 2 for 50 million, 50. Mm-hmm. And we're starting that process. And I think this picture of we'll tell you in which companies you invest, and then if there's a change, we'll go back to the investment committee, and then we will discuss it. It's fantastic. At least for these LP, they know they're not just giving money and say, well, now you have a thesis, we'll see what you can find out there. We're already providing to them real assets and goals that we want to achieve.
And you've got 4 companies I'm seeing on your website, your portfolio. So advanced nanotherapies, Vahadicor, which we mentioned earlier, Nuevo Sono,
yeah.
And Recava, which we mentioned earlier. Well, we can go into each of them in a moment, but I'd like to just understand sort of how each is worked on. Do the 3 of you, the partners, kind of just spend a day here, an hour there, an hour there? Have you brought in people from the outside to manage, and you're sort of overseeing those folks? What is the day-to-day development of these 4 companies look like?
Yeah, excellent question. So the 3 partners have different skill sets. So myself, product development, clinical regulatory, and just bringing product forward. Michael Mendel is more into the investment banking world, so he brings in all the finance. And Sanj is in the fundraising business, so both institutional and non-institutional fundraising. So every one of us has a mission, obviously very distinct from each other. When it comes to operations and day-to-day, I'm a CEO of Advanced Therapies, but I'm also overseeing Vahadicor and Nuevo Sono for now. we are trying to recruit people, CEOs, but it's always this question: do you raise the funds first and hire a CEO, or do you hire a CEO, then this person can go and raise their funds? So we're always trying to answer that question. We're opportunistic in the sense that if we find a good person to come in at the leadership, we will try to make space for this person. The other thing that I want to say, we're about 35 people for now.
Oh,
So
35. Okay.
So there are engineers and there are other regulatory and clinical folks that are part of our ecosystem here. So we're small, but we're nimble. We try to minimize the cost of bringing a technology forward, so we can maximize the return on every technology.
Let's run through the companies and just give me like the 1 minute why on each of them. Let's start with advanced nanotherapies.
Yeah, so advanced nanotherapy is my darling a little bit from the Cleveland Clinic, as they say. So it's nanotechnology applied to drug-coated balloon. We're differentiating ourselves by putting two drugs into one nanoparticle. And you probably already, Tom, this discussion between paclitaxel and sirolimus, which one is better. So we're trying to be agnostic to that and then do the two drugs into one nanoparticle. Nanoparticles have multiple advantages as well. So it's widely used right now in pharma. So why not bring it to the device world? We have found that mixing sirolimus and paclitaxel at a certain ratio gives you a synergistic effect. So now 1 + 1 = 45 in our case. So we try to expand and add more technology into something that is fairly simple here. And these nanoparticles also down the road, one can imagine that you can add new drugs. So a drug delivery that is consistent into a vessel and well done is better than all the different drug-coated balloons that are out there today, where you have a drug and excipient, and most of them are just shedding a lot of drug on the table. So talking about patient first that we mentioned earlier, well, and then in this particular also physician. So patient and physician safety is very important. And then I think it behooves us to move our technology to the next level so we can enjoy a better drug delivery in the field of MedTech for maybe the next 10 to 15 years. So we're opening the door with nanotechnology.
And all right, next we've mentioned earlier twice now, Vahadicor. I think I'm saying it right. Maybe I'm not.
No, you're saying right.
All right.
No, you're good. You're good.
Restoring microvascular perfusion. What does Vahadicor do?
Well, there is actually this disease that is nascent and people don't know about yet, and then you can see it more and more being in the front pages of different conferences. So it's called angina with non-obstructive coronary artery disease, or ischemia with non-obstructive coronary artery disease. This is part of a condition called coronary microvascular dysfunction, and coronary microvascular dysfunction is the inability for small vessels, and we're talking about vessels in the micron, so 400, 500 to dilate. So now, if you have a stent and you open up an artery, does not mean that your angina is gone. Matter of fact, that studies have shown that 20% of that population still feel angina after you have opened up arteries, and that angina is really due to this microvascular disease, that is the inability to open up the vessels. So it's very prevalent among women as well. So 25% of coronary angiograms have patients that can be diagnosed with CMD conditions. So this is about 1 million patients a year. And then you use a device, a very simple device, an hourglass shape that is implanted in the venous side, that just really stops the flow from or reduces the flow rate, and then create a back pressure and dilates the small microvascular bed, and then helps more oxygen to stay within the heart muscle, and then angina is gone. So it's a very simple device. It's very interesting. Coronary microvascular disease is a nascent disease, and it's very prevalent as well. So we hope that we can find a therapy, or this therapy can open up a whole bunch of avenues as well for these patients. And there is and today there is outside medication. There's nothing available for these patients.
Oh wow, okay. And I'll say you have very nice imagery on your website. So if folks want to see what it looks like, go to 145labs.com. There's a portfolio button there. So Nuevo Sono, the clear IVUS choice.
Nuevo Sono is another, again, the adoption of IVUS is very, very low, 10 to 15% due to workflow problems. And then Philips has the highest market share despite a low resolution, versus others have, workflow issues and then have the highest resolution, but they don't seem to be used. So all of that to say that we're developing an IVUS that has an ease of use similar to what Philips has been able to put together, and our images are close to OCT images from resolution perspective. We are the first IVUS that uses broadband or multi-frequency. Multi-frequency means that, or the best analogy that I tell people is, today IVUSs are like a buzzer, so a single frequency, high amplitude. We've developed a sensor. It's a license from the Cleveland Clinic as well, where it's more of a speaker and then high amplitude. So now it allows you to have listen on the IVUS on the ultrasound airwaves between 10 megahertz to 100 megahertz instead of just being a single focused IVUS frequency. This is an excellent product. Wow. We're using wavelet analysis. We're using AI with this. So we're excited about this technology.
I wasn't aware of this energy being used for these purposes. Are you alone in that, or is this done at times? Yeah,
from broadband perspective, we're the only one. Multi-frequency analysis. I think if you take a look at all the IVUSs out there, they're crystal, like piezo crystals, and they use a single frequency.
Okay.
All of this stems from the sensor. So we've got a new sensor. Yeah.
And the final one we can hit it upon is Recava. It's a novel take on congestive heart failure. And for folks listening at home, you can go to, I may have said 145 Labs before. It's T45 Labs, of course, T45labs.com. There's a portfolio button there. So Marwan, tell us about Recava.
Yeah, absolutely. So Recava is an amalgamation between two products that have been already, it's in prototyping phase. So my description might be a little bit more nebulous than the other ones. So this is basically putting two devices or two mechanism of actions into one device in treating heart failure. We've built the device and we are questioning or querying, I should say, the KOLs about the potential synergistic effect that we can have by combining these two mechanisms. So we're looking forward to our animal studies and then maybe some early clinical work on that front. So that's as far as I'm going to go today with that
one. Okay. I think that's enough to certainly whet some appetites, some interest, I'm sure. So, all right, Marwan, this has been a great visit. I imagine just looking forward, a single sale of one of these products with the fund of your size would make for good returns. Two of them, I'm sure, would be a home run. Is that obviously you want them all to succeed, but what does the future look like for T45 Labs?
Yeah, we're looking forward to partner up with strategics and moving this forward. So these are assets that we built and necessary to commercialize ourselves. So we want to be able to commercialize hand in hand with strategics. I think we bring in good value and good innovation to create and enhance different portfolio of these strategics as well. And then we're looking for hopefully exits. So all three of them, but I'll take one for now. And then the three would be great. So it's difficult to see how these technologies can reside only in an incubator. Like I said, we need to be able to build bridges to the patient as a patient first. Now, what's the future for us? We're looking at other assets as well, robotic surgery, mitral versus tricuspid. We're waiting on that field to see how it's going to shake out. Like I said, we are building a T45 Fund 2 for $50 million. So we're trying to put some funds into play. And we always, our eyes are always open on how the market will move, so we can move with it on a fast follower fashion. I think that's a good way for us to usher technology and new technology to the patient.
Fantastic. All right, Marwan, it was great to meet you, learn your story, and to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you, Tom.
All right, that's a wrap. Thanks so much for joining us in this episode of the DeviceTalks Weekly Podcast. Please register for DeviceTalks Boston. It's happening on April 30th, May 1st. Please do subscribe and follow to the DeviceTalks Podcast Network so you don't miss a future DeviceTalks podcast. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with Kayleen Brown, our managing editor on LinkedIn, and connect with Chris Newmarker, executive editor of MassDevice on LinkedIn. We want to be part of your future MedTech conversations. And of course, join us on Device Talks Tuesdays. You can watch that live, you can watch that on demand, but make sure you register. Go to DeviceTalks.com to find and register for all these great Device Talks programs. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.